Influencer boxing has become all the rage recently. Companies like Misfits, DAZN, and Happy Punch have made millions off of one simple concept. What if YouTube nerds got in the ring? Answering that question has proven to be extremely profitable for those involved, with KSI earning upwards of $2 million for one fight. This led controversial YouTuber iDubbbz to organize the Creator Clash, an influencer boxing event that would see some unexpected names on its lineup. On top of that, the event was for a good cause, donating all profits to charity. Despite its noble goal, the event had been plagued by controversy from its inception. Creator Clash 2 had its fair share of troubles as well, failing to raise a single dollar for charity and instead costing the organizers $250,000. So what went wrong? Could this have been avoided? And will Creator Clash even exist in the future? During the mid-2010s, when edgy content was as prominent and popular as teenage girls dancing to Deftones, one of the many, if not the biggest creators for this genre was Ian, or iDubbbz. He got millions and millions of views on videos where it was almost guaranteed he would be covered in paraphernalia, mailed Mein Kampf by his fans, and championing the well-known title for his fan base that was literally just the top 2 gamer words. This edgy style would usually reach its climax in his most popular series, Content Cop, a brutal and well-articulated series of videos where he would critique others in a way that reached a legendary status among almost everyone on the internet for how thorough, decisive, and well-researched they were. Ian would establish an immense capacity for criticism, and it would go on to be a staple of his brand that fans couldn't get enough of. From going to meet Tana Mojo in person and hanging up pictures of Leafy and asking people to pin a chin on him, there was truly no one safe from the crosshairs of the Content Cop. The first creator Ian would target was a now almost forgotten reaction channel called Jinx Reloaded. In it, Ian would criticize Jinx and the React format as a whole, as it was relatively new at the time. More importantly, he would challenge Jinx to a boxing match that would be ignored and largely seen as a meme, even if Ian treated it pretty seriously. However, his wish for boxing would be granted years later. Ironically, after the last creator he would make a Content Cop on, RiceGum, an infamous YouTuber that was known for his boastful nature, egomaniacal personality, and tendency to flex on his fans. Half a year after the Content Cop would drop, on March 15th, 2018, RiceGum would go on Drama Alert and state that he had asked Ian for a boxing match after seeing Logan Paul and KSI organize their own. Apparently, he had reached out to Max Mofo, but was told that Ian would probably not go for it and never directly responded. As the drama around him and Ian would fade away with no response, it seemed like it was never going to happen, and the fans would be robbed a second time. Fast forward to June 2021, 3 years later, RiceGum would message Anissa, Ian's wife, to fight him and say that he had fallen off. This time though, Ian would respond, and planning would begin shortly after. Ian would spend the next 4 months trying to organize a card and look for a good promoter. Eventually, when he found one, RiceGum would ghost any attempts at contact. When he did respond, he would say things like, "My neck hurts," prompting Ian to release a video titled "You're Hiding From Me," where he would explain what was happening and ask creators if there was anyone else interested in being on a card and potentially a backup if RiceGum was going to keep flaking. The very same day, Keemstar would reach out to Rice to see what was going on, and Rice would respond essentially saying that he was not going to do it and that Ian had missed his chance in 2018. Oh, and he also said that iDubbbz was irrelevant. After seeing all of this, Ian decided the event didn't actually need RiceGum and announced that it would still be happening, saying, "We're setting up an absolute slugfest of creators. It's a good thing RiceGum wimped out. We will have RiceGum in a cage where people can throw rotten fruit at him in between fights." 5 months later, on March 25th, Ian would officially announce Creator Clash, a one-night boxing event featuring a lineup of fighters that audiences didn't expect would ever be fighting. Names like Michael Reeves, The Odd Ones Out, and Aaron from Game Grumps to name a few. Ian stated a month later that he specifically got the most unexpected influencers to box because of the mystery of what was going to happen.
When Floyd goes into the ring for the 50th time, you're like, yeah, I kind of have an idea of how this is going to play out.
A good amount of advertising was also made to highlight this point, and more so that it would be different from the previous YouTuber boxing matches that seemed phony and hypebeast-centric.
I've specifically gotten people who don't have names like FaZe Knuckle. Like, of course FaZe Knuckle is gonna want to box. We got the most insane lineup of people you'd be like, oh no, you have no reason to fight. Why are you doing this?
Not only that, but the event was for a good cause, as all of the proceeds would be going to charity. Creator Clash was set for May 14th, and marketing began. Contestants started making promo videos, and the hype train was really ramping up. Fans were getting excited, and everything looked like it was gonna go off without a hitch. That is, until crack started showing. A month after Creator Clash was announced, Ian would drop a documentary, this being the third in a series themed around eccentric internet weirdos like Airsoft Fatty and Dax Flame, both of which blew up in popularity, with Airsoft Fatty's video specifically becoming becoming the most viewed video on iDubbbz's channel, apart from the episodes of Content Cop. The third documentary in question would be about controversial comedian Sam Hyde, a figure that you can easily see partially inspired Ian's sense of humor and style of videos. Sam calls himself a comedian, but it wouldn't be wrong to call him an internet legend, inspiring countless creators today with his irony-soaked balls-to-the-wall sense of humor, and even some going as far as to say he was the reason for the meta-irony wave starting back in the late 2010s. Whatever that means. To this day, Sam routinely has short clips made by him turned into mainstream memes, with regular people often not even knowing who he is, yet sharing his comedic videos nonetheless.
What's the one problem right now that's not going to be around in 2070? The elderly and the disabled. Because we're just gonna kill them.
Here's how I usually park the bike. I'm gonna reenact it for you. Hey, that's a nice bike. I'ma take that sh. Hey, why don't the head turn and sh? Hey, the thing in the way. I can't get out.
Sam has been making comedic videos and skits since the late 2000s, but had his big break in August of 2016 when his comedy troupe, MDE, landed an Adult Swim show titled $1 Million Extreme Presents World Peace, with over 1 million live viewers for the premiere, and even the creator of Adult Swim, Mike Lazo, apparently quoted saying that the show would be the next Tim and Eric, and they were going to shoot 100 episodes.
That's what Mike Lazo, the guy that created Adult Swim, he said, you know, he said, we're the next Tim and Eric, we're gonna shoot 100 episodes of this show. He loved it. He was so pissed off when they canceled it that he took a 2-month sabbatical. He stopped working for 2 months after our shit got taken down. Yeah.
Unfortunately for Sam, his luck had already run out. A journalist by the name of Joseph Bernstein wrote what was essentially a hit piece titled "The Alt-Right Has Its Very Own TV Show on Adult Swim." The article called into question intentions of the comedic skits, such as Jews Rock, and tied it to Sam's Twitter and Reddit accounts where he made various incendiary comments about various political figures and topics. They also called into question his donation to the Daily Stormer, a neo-Nazi news website headed by Andrew Anglin. But the question became whether or not this article would pose a serious business risk to Adult Swim. Despite having a measly 8 comments and less than 100 likes on the article, Adult Swim went into panic mode and took the show down after only 1 season of airing. After this incident, Sam and his crew were apparently ejected and blacklisted by anything mainstream, never to return to anything Hollywood ever again, forced to go to alternative platforms like Gumroad, and subtly banned invading more mainstream platforms like Twitter and YouTube. Sam was still making content to a loyal following, who would follow him wherever he would go next, but he certainly had fallen off for some amount of time, returning to the image board fan base that originally clung on to his content, and fading away from the mainstream. With no real main channel to upload to, 2016 to 2019 was another underground period for MDE. That is, until iDubbbz would unknowingly slingshot him back into the mainstream. On February 2nd, 2022, Ian would release a documentary titled Getting Away With It, an hour-long spectacle of what was basically a giant comedy gaslighting bit constructed by Sam that Ian was not in on. A month prior, Sam had released a behind-the-scenes look at the documentary, including what they called the iDubbbz gaslighting document, detailing ideas for how they could trick him and make the video funnier. Things like renting out a dentist's office and pretending it's their main office, then flooding it with empty beer cans, having a fake part of the crew dedicated towards crypto rapping, boxing under a crack pipe-infested bridge, and hiring a girl to shave her head and pretend to be Sam's insane girlfriend.
Yo, Sam, what Joey's working on? So I thought you were bald.
No.
What? Why is your head so
Unfortunately, therein lies the problem and point of contention for viewers. While Sam was approaching the documentary in a comedic and entertainment-focused lens, it looked like iDubbbz was looking to make a more serious, grounded documentary that was trying to dissect Sam's absurdist comedy and find meaning behind it. At this point in Ian's career, he had been uploading a lot less edgy, critical content and had been getting flack for his wife, Anissa, who had started an OnlyFans, to which Ian made the now infamous video addressing people that called him a cuck. This was the moment that many fans lost their rose-tinted glasses and started viewing him in a more critical light, instead of as an untouchable, godly figure. After this incident, it's safe to say that viewers who watched iDubbbz try to understand Sam's humor, the humor that made Ian popular to begin with, did not bode well for his overall perception. There were a lot of uncomfortable moments during filming, and some of the questions and points Ian brought up would make viewers, and even Sam himself, think that the original premise for the video was supposed to be a hit piece instead of a neutral profile piece.
Part of what went wrong was I think iDubbbz was kind of trying to punk me a little bit, and like make me look like a guy that had like fallen off, which I have. Like I've fallen off, like undoubtedly. But I think he kind of wanted to like he wanted to come out here and see something depressing, and we like ended up making this kind of like funny thing.
Hilariously enough, by inserting his comedy into the doc and making everything a ruse, Sam had unknowingly flipped everything on his head, much to the dismay of Ian. Overall though, fans loved it and thought both videos were hilarious and chaotic. In the official cut, Ian would try to explain his thought process and try clarifying that the video was not meant to be a hit piece, which did convince some viewers, but still left a good portion of the fans with a bad taste in their mouth. Sam would release a follow-up video saying that he enjoyed Ian's cut of the documentary, and more importantly was very thankful that someone with a much bigger view base was giving him a career boost on a much larger platform, diffusing all tension, at least for the time being. However, this didn't last long. With the Creator Clash hype train hitting critical mass, Sam was looking for a way in. He had been trying to box Twitch streamer Hassan Piker for the last few months, but was largely ignored even after repeated attempts at contact. With Creator Clash coming up, this was his way of legitimizing his pursuit to get himself and Hassan on the card. Sam had also been looking for a way in by claiming that he inspired Creator Clash initially from when he boxed with iDubbbz during the documentary, under the bridge with the aforementioned crack pipes on the ground.
iDubbbz, would you say that I inspired your boxing career?
No, you did not.
Okay, okay.
It seemed like whenever Sam Hyde was mentioned, Ian and Anissa would get visibly uncomfortable until they finally addressed the requests on stream.
To address everyone asking about Sam Hyde, he's a difficult guy, all right? And we're trying to make this like a very positive event. You know, if Sam wants to do his own boxing event, I would encourage him to do so. He's got the money to do it. Make a boxing event. So involving him in our event just isn't a good idea. I think most people would.
Business risk.
I think most people would understand that.
Yeah, it's a huge business risk.
Most fans weren't too happy, discussing how iDubbbz got his claim to fame by being anti-brand friendly and that he was now pulling the ladder up. Despite this, Sam still had an ace up his sleeve, Harley Morenstein of Epic Mealtime. For the unaware, Epic Mealtime was one of the biggest names on YouTube during the early 2010s and regularly got millions and millions and millions of views. Today, the channel isn't what it used to be, but the name is still huge and the brand commands a level of respect from YouTube veterans. With Sam denied entry to the card, he chose the next best thing, training. If he couldn't be the fighter, he announced his desire to train Harley to win, and hopefully attend the fight in person to see his trainee fight. Harley already had a trainer, but Sam reached out to him, offering a 2-week-long boot camp that would ensure he decimated his opponent. Opposite him in the ring would be Aaron Hansen, or Egoraptor of Game Grumps fame. So Harley traveled from Canada to Providence, Rhode Island for his boot camp.
And I was like, okay, so if I go and I fight Sam Hyde twice a day, every single day for 7 weeks, a single Game Grump should be pretty easy for me.
While there, Harley ended up making a video series documenting it all. Things were looking up as Harley went back to Canada to finish training. As Sam had trained him, he planned on attending the event, but on May 17th, he would post on Instagram that he had not only been banned from Creator Clash, but not informed about this until hours before the event, never issued a refund, and he also claimed that security guards were walking around the event with pictures of his face, while the cameramen avoided sections of the crowd that wore his merch. This was the last straw that broke the camel's back. Sam had withheld anything really negative to say about iDubbbz at this point, happy to just train Harley and take the personal win and satisfaction from his win. But after the ban, all bets were off. Since Sam was banned, his crew, along with Brandon Buckingham, had to attend without him, and were still accosted by iDubbbz and Anissa beforehand, only being allowed in with the promise that Sam would not be with them. It was made all the more pressing on social media when Harley walked out to his fight dressed like Solid Snake and mopped the floor with his competition.
Trying to pull his way in, but right hand. Now Harley swarming. Uppercut Harley. 2, 3, 4 shots in a row. Harley unanswered. Aaron's trying to cover up. Referee's taking a look. He's taking a look. And that's it. That is it.
A few days later, Brandon would make a video documenting what happened, interviewing Sam to hear his thoughts about what transpired. And this time, Sam didn't hold back.
Like deep down, I want him to be uncut. I want him to get the tattoos lasered off, get a normal haircut, get rid of Yoko Ono. That's poisonous. That relationship is poisonous. She's like his entertainment handler. Like she's like she's his fucking career manager now or something. She's got to go, man. She's gonna ruin his life.
Yoko Ono is in reference to Anissa. He reinforced what fans had been speculating and discussing about her since the Mark video, that Anissa had changed iDubbbz for the worse. Much of this mentality had already been pushed by videos from creators like Diesel Patches and Creepshow Art, who made videos documenting Anissa's history as a content creator and outlined why they feel she's a bad partner. The most in-depth dissection, however, was by Brittany Venti, who released an hour-long video in 2018, which received 650,000 views.
She could have just sat there with her cleavage to get the point across of troll baiting and everything in order to create that interesting dichotomy she's talking about. So instead, she chooses to be this interesting artist who's also a troll, instead of just admitting to what she did, which was focusing her stream on her body.
People shouldn't make fun of stars.
You were supposed to come and hang out with me and Celestia. After you begged Celestia, I have the Skype screenshots.
I never wanted to join Zoe's Ho Squad.
The video mostly came down to calling out her hypocrisy, as well as calling Anissa a pick-me, and videos like this would sow the seeds of dissent, as Anissa was basically viewed as iDubbbz's biggest baggage that he needed to dispense of immediately. Sam reinforced this belief, saying things like she's the one who wears the pants in the relationship, and claiming that she is the reason for Ian's recent change in content to be more brand-friendly. Sam also revealed the infamous detail that he withheld up until this point.
But at one point, he said at the tail end of the documentary, when he wasn't getting the footage that he wanted, he was really upset, like an angry, like child. Like he was pouting. He was pouting in his car and shit. And he said, not to me, but to somebody on the crew, he said, usually I'm the puppet master in these situations.
What?
Yeah, he said 100% on God. He said that. Usually, I'm the puppet master in situations.
That's how he views himself? iDubbbz the puppet master?
I guess so, man. I guess so.
Whether or not it's true Ian said this, there clearly were a lot more indicators he didn't originally approach the documentary with a fully positive intent, with Sam choosing to withhold this until now because he was just happy with the free publicity at the time. Apart from all the drama and burnt bridges happening between Sam and iDubbbz, the first Creator Clash was a massive success, selling over 100,000 pay-per-views, delivering on its concept of pairing up odd fighters like Michael Reeves and Just a Minx, while also being just a cool event to hang out and see other e-celebrities at, as long as your name doesn't rhyme with Bam Bide. Not only that, but they also raised over $1.3 million for charity, which even the diehard iDubbbz haters agreed was a good thing. They had to. However, while Creator Clash may have been successful, Ian's fanbase had largely splintered, and were growing more resentful as the days went on. Many saw Ian banning Sam as a major hypocrisy, noting that he had been extremely successful being a brand risk before, but now he was saying that wasn't allowed, that wasn't cool. With Creator Clash 2 being confirmed for spring of 2023, surely history would repeat itself and the event would be run as perfectly as the original. Right? After Creator Clash was officially over, it felt like an all-out war started, with Sam spearheading the anti-iDubbbz rhetoric and overall representing the fan base that felt like iDubbbz had changed for the worse. After being banned, Sam's attitude was exemplified over the next few months when clips started surfacing of him making disparaging remarks about Ian and Anissa on stream. To give you a scope of how massive this disorganized campaign was, there's a 40-minute compilation you can find of Sam going scorched earth, with the overall support from his newly found audience of iDubbbz refugees.
I don't think so, Anissa. Oh, Anissa. What an ugly piece of shit. Look how beat she is. Oh, nice jack-o'-lantern teeth.
That's like
I can't wait to see what she looks like when she's 32. It's the Anissa Joma hole stretcher.
Anissa specifically was widely regarded as the reason Ian had made such a dramatic change. And whether you believe that or not, the fans definitely had that conclusion. With full-on channels blowing up, with edits criticizing the couple and theorizing that she was controlling him, Ian would then go on the H3 podcast and Hassan Piker's stream, disavowing his older content. He viewed his change of content as maturing, and stated that he felt bad for criticizing others in such a brutal way. Many fans would point out that Ian was 27 at the peak of his edginess, and conveniently matured around the time of YouTube's adpocalypse, when edgy content became less and less monetizable. Others viewed this as a genuine attempt from Ian to try and become a better person, a sentiment upset fans would attribute to Anissa's influence.
I also take ownership for the Tana thing. Was my
that was so long ago.
Was my idea. Was my stupid idea. Yeah. I was the one that
suggested like we can go to the place. It's just in San Francisco. I'm like, it is just in San Francisco.
Yeah, that drive and everything.
thing. And now I think back to it, I'm like, I can't believe we literally harassed an 18-year-old child.
I love how they're all on the moral high ground, but their whole audience was built around their edgy humor. I'm glad his girlfriend was able to explain to us why he doesn't do edgy humor anymore. As the months went by and more resentment of Ian started to build up, Sam would start talking to Keemstar and Happy Punch to try and finally get the boxing match he had wanted for over a year now. In June, it was announced that Sam was now a co-owner of Happy Punch, hyping up some fans to believe that there was a match coming. Finally, on July 15th, Happy Punch announced that Sam would be on the card for the KSI London event, and fans went insane. After Sam was banned from Creator Clash, this felt like an underdog story, which only created more hype. The fight itself was extremely entertaining, with Sam pretty much decimating his opponent, but it also represented the major hypocrisy fans had pointed out from iDubbbz. Nonetheless, marketing for Creator Clash 2 began at the tail end of January, with recurring fighters that fought at the last one, along with new faces like Fitz, Chris Raygun, and Froggy Fresh set to fight. Froggy Fresh showing up was a welcome surprise to fans that fondly remembered him from back when YouTube and the internet were much simpler. He's a YouTuber who makes comedic rap videos and got a majority of his following 10 years ago, with his most popular video reaching a staggering 27 million views. For reference, this was the same year that the Doge and Harlem Shake memes were made, so it's been a while since Froggy has seen the limelight, and his fans love to see him back. He was set to fight Chris Raygun, another channel that has decent analytics, but made his claim to fame and largely peaked during the 2016 anti-SJW era, so it was fitting he would be fighting Froggy. Everything was looking up for Froggy, and at this point in time he'd been training for 8 months, which is no small feat in terms of commitment to fighting. 1 month before the event on March 24th, Happy Punch would tweet pictures of Froggy training with, you guessed it, Sam Hyde. It seemed that somehow Sam had found a way to indirectly be a part of Creator Clash for the second year in a row, and there's no denying the guy was seeking this out. He wanted to taunt Ian as much as he possibly could, but this time Ian wasn't content with just ignoring him. A few minutes after Happy Punch would tweet that photo, Anissa's mother, using a sock puppet account titled The Pied Piper, would reply to one of Anissa's tweets, "Hope it's about replacing the imp," referring to Froggy as the imp and the replacing, meaning she wanted him taken off the card, presumably because she saw that he had been training with Sam Hyde, as well as making a joke where he said he would subscribe to Anissa's OnlyFans if he lost to Chris Raygun.
On April 15th, if I don't hurt you beyond what anybody could have imagined, I will be so disappointed in myself that I will subscribe to Anissa's OnlyFans.
This account had been cited as Anissa's mom by Kiwi Farms users, who noticed Anissa replying to it often, and some later dug up a Kotaku article written about her called "The Mom Who Moderates Her Daughter's Rowdy Twitch Chat." This article features an interview with Anissa and her mother talking about how she spends her days in her daughter's Twitch chat, debating trolls and banning people who cross the line. At first, I was surprised. Maureen Jama, 52, remembered when I spoke with her on Skype earlier this week. She was what you'd call a booby streamer, where you attract viewers to your stream, trolls, who come to harass or hit on female streamers, she said. Jama is now one of her daughter's most dedicated Twitch moderators, tasked with keeping Rainbow Kids' chat in line so it continues to abide by Twitch's terms of service. With it being confirmed in the community's eyes that this was, in fact, Mrs. Jama, Senor Froggy would respond to Anissa's mom, calling her out by saying the following: "Better an imp than a pimp. Shout out your boy iDubbbz. Also, Anissa, come get your mom." Anissa's mom would then reply to this tweet, to which Froggy would make a video responding.
Guess what, internet? I got even more news for you. Something I didn't even say about last night. Anissa's mom also made another tweet at me. She tweeted, "Classic case of brain damage. Better have that looked at along with your obviously shrunken balls."
To most people, Froggy was just on the defensive and rightfully responding with banter, as he had not been the instigator. But apparently not everyone saw it as light banter, and shortly after this, Creator Clash would make an announcement. There has been a change in the lineup, and Froggy Fresh will no longer be fighting against Chris Raygun. We will announce his replacement in the coming days. With just 3 weeks left, the countdown to Creator Clash 2 has begun. Adding that last cheerful sentence felt like twisting the knife, and was the cherry on top for the situation to go completely nuclear. This was the match that lit the fuse. After months of tension, fans and creators alike went absolutely ballistic. Immediately after this event, Keemstar would start the hashtag #FreeFroggyFresh, and several creators would respond with outrage. "This is disgusting. I can't believe Creator Clash would ban Froggy Fresh just because he made a joke about iDubbbz' wife." The reason for the ban was unclear, as Creator Clash hadn't made a statement beyond the vague tweet. Some speculated it was because of the OnlyFans joke, some said it was because he went after Anissa's mom, others thought it was because he trained with Sam Hyde, who Ian is was clearly not a fan of, had insulted Anissa, and was banned from the first event. Later that night, popular YouTuber Moist Critical would share his disappointment as well. "I'm really disappointed by this. Kicking him for a Twitter controversy after months of training is brutal. I don't think any jokes he made were intended to be mean-spirited or shit on anyone. Hopefully they reconsider this decision." At this point, the drama surrounding this had gotten so big it had reached the mainstream. Philip DeFranco, Scarce, and many other large channels who are hardly a part of the community and are really just mainstream sources of news for internet normies would pick up on the story. Keemstar would also host several Twitter spaces with big-name YouTubers, as well as announce that Jidion would donate 100K to the Creator Clash charity if Froggy Fresh got put back on the card. This was not the end of the offered money though. Meanwhile, the Creator Clash camp went on the defense. Nathan Barnett, or Dad, would tweet defending Anissa and Ian's decision, along with calling out Sam Hyde. "Sam is nothing like me. My characters aren't hateful and don't say random insults, and my characters aren't myself as my own name." In classic Sam Hyde fashion, he would react to this in the most extreme way possible, challenging Dad to a boxing match and saying he would drop 70 pounds if Dad gained 30. In addition to that, he also promised to delete all of his socials and never make content again if he lost. When Dad ignored his request, he would make his final escalation, offering his Porsche GT3 RS and $250,000 in cash, adding up to $500,000 plus the 100K from Jidion, making a grand total of $600,000 for charity if Dad fought him. Obviously, Dad had already blocked Sam and clearly wanted nothing to do with him, so he never responded. In fact, Dad got so fed up with Sam's tweets and his fans that he deleted his Twitter entirely. Later that night, Sam would go on a Twitter space hosted by Keemstar and have some less than savory words for him, to say the least.
"Hey, we're all friends here. We're having good, clean fun in this boxing organization. We're all fun." Like this fake nice guy shit, this Nathan Barnett Dad guy, these fucking beta male fake nice guys that would, to be quite honest, they'd probably be rapists if they had have a chance to rape somebody. Okay. That Nathan Barnett guy, he's all smiles, he's all funny little jokes, he's joking around like he's in a commercial. I guarantee you that guy would rape somebody if he had the opportunity.
While all this was happening, Harley Morenstein, the guy Sam trained, had been getting a ton of flack after defending Ian and Anissa's decision to ban Froggy. He argued that if it was his mom getting made fun of, he would do the same thing, saying that his mom makes dumb tweets that he has to call her to delete and that nobody is perfect. Not only that, but he also called out Jidion for not donating the $100,000 to charity, even though Froggy had not been reinstated.
Jidion, didn't you say you had 100K for charity? I mean, you said you had 100K for charity if they brought Froggy Fresh back, but they didn't. So does that mean you no longer have 100K for charity? What was your 100K for? Froggy Fresh's appearance? What are you gonna do with that 100K now? I wanna know. I mean, that 100K didn't just exist to blackmail Creator Clash to bringing Froggy back, right? You were gonna donate it somewhere, so where are you gonna donate it? I'm sure that wasn't 100K for Froggy Fresh. That'd be weird. What about the children?
What followed would be a 24-hour battle of semantics that didn't really matter in the end. The point is Harley got a lot of crap for defending Ian and Anissa. After an entire day of what was basically half the internet boycotting Creator Clash, the official account finally released a statement regarding Froggy Fresh's termination. "We have a legally binding code of conduct that each of our Creator Clash 2 fighters are held to, the violation of which is grounds for termination. Unfortunately, there were several violations made by Froggy Fresh during his tenure with Creator Clash this year." These violations they mention are never specified, but Harley would tweet out a boilerplate contract for boxing, as he puts it, to clarify what he personally thinks Froggy may have violated. Fighter agrees, represents, and warrants that he and his accompanying personnel shall conduct themselves in conformity with public conventions, morals, and standards of decency, and not do or commit any act or do anything that could degrade themselves, the broadcasters, the site, event sponsors, or the event. Essentially, the contract is saying that if you're a boxer, you aren't allowed to make fun of the event organizers, which Froggy had. Froggy would respond to this by saying, "Now I've been threatened with a potential lawsuit if I spoke out about this entire mess, and demanding the $15,000 I used for training, equipment, travel, etc. over the last 5 months. Unbelievable. Is this for charity or what's going on?" He would elaborate on the details in a Twitter space later that night.
Froggy, were you actually threatened with a lawsuit?
Yes, this is what their offer was. They wanted me to pay back the $15,000 that they sent me over the last 5 months for training, travel, equipment, and stuff like that. And also like a vow of silence on the situation. And if I signed that, they would drop any potential to sue for what they believe are damages that the event has incurred. record. So in other words, like, we're not going to sue you if you pay back the 15 grand and you shut up about it. But like, if you don't sign this, then we can pursue, like, to sue you based on damages that I brought to the event.
Okay,
This obviously was extremely worrying, as Froggy had already spent the $15,000 they gave him for training on training, and he couldn't just pull $15,000 out of thin air. All he could really do was bide his time and hope they wouldn't pursue legal action. After the Twitter space, Mudahar would reply to Froggy, offering to cover any legal fees if he actually did get sued over this. While the legal scare was happening, fighters like Harley would come out and say that they never actually threatened to sue Froggy, that he didn't know what he was talking about, and the real reason he was kicked was for his disparaging remarks about the organizers.
Is it confirmed that they're going to try to sue him?
No, they're not suing him. They just don't
Dude,
want
I'll
him
even
to,
address that.
They probably don't
can
want
I
him
address
to,
the tax first?
disparage the event.
Harley,
I'm
I'm
15 or
confused.
17K.
Regardless of if what Harley was saying was true, spectators agreed it was really odd the actual event organizers were not coming out and clarifying. Instead, the fighters, who may or may not have had the correct info, were the ones going out of their way to make definitive statements for the event organizers and dealing with all of the backlash themselves. Froggy apparently had disparaged the event, which is why he got banned. Cut and dry. However, most people didn't see it that way. Sure, Froggy had made jokes about Anissa's OnlyFans, but that's all he and most people saw them as, jokes. Something not to be taken seriously. Most people were taken aback since iDubbbz used to be the figurehead for freedom of expression and not taking things too seriously. Around this time, people also picked up on a podcast, which at the time was a few weeks old, where Ian once again disavowed his past. But this time, his approach was to express embarrassment for the fans themselves, reigniting the fire and resentment that viewers would have for him, and this would solidify the view that the old iDubbbz was gone and he was not coming back. There would be no redemption arc.
I did not like the interactions that I had with fans. There were quite a few human beings that I interacted with.
In person?
Yeah, in person, that just sucked. They just sucked because I attracted a lot of people who sucked. Some people were, as I described earlier, were very much like antisocial, weird basement dwellers, and you know, the one time a month that they come out of their cave is going to restock on supplies at Walmart, and they run into me, their favorite YouTuber.
Which is kind of the lifestyle you were living at the time.
Yeah, exactly. I don't blame them.
And what would they say? What would they do?
Things that I am certainly not going to repeat.
This also sparked a theory that the real reason Froggy got banned from Creator Clash was because of Sam Hyde. As stated before, Sam represented what Ian's old fan base was. With Ian now outright rejecting them, it made perfect sense. All he had to do was use Froggy's tweets as a cover, mention a few contract violations, and stay silent. Perfect plan. This was the prevailing theory and sentiment among fans who didn't expect definitive answers, but were satisfied with the general conclusion. Little did they know, their theory would soon be proven true. With the drama now in most people's rearview mirror, it was time for the actual event to start. Despite being a bit of a PR nightmare, and 100 times worse in terms of drama than the previous year, the event itself seemed like another success. They again delivered on unexpected and weird matchups, hosted an inviting environment where fans could see and even interact with their favorite e-celebrity, and it looked like they almost sold out the stadium from pictures shown. There were, of course, going to be flaws though. Since Froggy was kicked, Chris Ray Gun unfortunately got matched with the Incredible Hulk and got absolutely pummeled in the first round. Apart from this though, Creator Clash 2 as an event looks like another win for Ian and Anissa, but more importantly, a win for the charities that they were raising money for. As half a month went by, Ian would eventually drop a video detailing the Froggy Fresh drama. In it, he would confirm what most people believed to be true, and debunked any other reason in the first 3 minutes.
The focus is kicking Froggy Fresh from the Creator Clash card. The main reason Froggy was kicked from the card was for collaborating with Sam Hyde.
The general point of the video was that Froggy had hung out with Sam Hyde, who Ian didn't like anymore because of the disparaging comments made about his wife. Ian would then try communicating with him via text to try and reach a middle ground, but Froggy would immediately get hostile, throwing any hope of a mutual agreement out the window. This would confirm the timeline of events, along with proving credibility that Froggy truly only got banned because of his refusal to meet Ian in the middle regarding Sam Hyde. The argument with Anissa's mom and the OnlyFans stuff turned out to be just incidental, but could have been a smaller contributing factor. It was never addressed in the video though. Semantics aside, this was honestly a pretty fair reason to not want Froggy on the card considering the comments Sam made about Anissa. However you feel about OnlyFans, she is Ian's wife, so obviously he's not going to be cool with that. Ian would then address the legal concerns and fear of getting sued that Froggy had shown.
By the way, we weren't suing Froggy. We have no interest in going to court over $15,000. We wanted that $15,000 back, but you know, he wasn't giving it to us. So we have to leave it at that. You know, we're not suing him.
From his tone of voice, it seemed like what Froggy was saying about getting sued was an exaggeration, and there was never any real threat of this to begin with. Froggy would respond to these accusations 2 days later. I know everyone's sick of hearing about this, and trust me, I'm sick of talking about it. So if you're over this, you can scroll past, I get it. But I have to finally address this big point, which is Ian saying they weren't threatening to sue me. Attached is the legal letter I was sent threatening legal action. I highlighted the important parts. The images attached would be damning evidence that everything Froggy was saying in regards to being sued was true, with a very clear threat to sue at the end. If you fail to return the enclosed acknowledgement by the specified date, Creator Clash shall seek all remedies available to it at law and equity due to your material breach of the bout agreement, including without limitation, seeking punitive and consequential damages. The video didn't do very well, as Ian had gone on relatively long tangents about sex workers that didn't really have anything to do with the drama, and just left a bad taste in his old fans' mouths once again. Overall though, the drama was already old, and people wanted to move on with their lives. At the end of the day, as long as Creator Clash 2 was a fun event and raised money for charity, that's all that mattered to the majority of people who weren't watching this all go down.
In closing, I want to say that Creator Clash is probably the single best thing that I've ever done in my life. It has, you know, brought so much joy to me and Anissa. It has brought the most awesome people that I've ever met. It's brought them into my life, and I'm super grateful, and I want to keep doing it.
Well, fast forward 2 months, and iDubbbz drops a video called The Harsh Reality of Creator Clash 2, singing what is essentially the opposite tune from the last video. It looked like Creator Clash 2 wasn't the success everyone thought it was. Quite the opposite. Ian goes into detail and lays out that the event lost $250,000, a far cry from what had been presented before. He attributed the loss to the event's lack of piracy prevention measures, and says that out of the 1.3 to 3 million live viewers, only about 50,000 were pay-per-view viewers. A number so large, many didn't believe that amount of people were actually watching on pirated sites, and accused him of inflating the numbers. But we'll just have to take his word for it. He continues and blames the fact that they bought out an arena twice as big as the previous event, paid for more broadcasting, which involved more staff, and bought out an entire hotel for creators to stay in. Ironically, buying out the hotel would be a good thing, since that same week, Taylor Swift was coming to town, and hotel prices shot up. The last of the money was spent on events before and after the fight for what he calls processing trauma. Along with that, they added 6 more fighters this year than last year, and gave $20,000 to each fighter for training that he emphasized was an absolute necessity. After this video was posted, news outlets began running stories, and almost everyone had one question on their mind. What went wrong? In this video, Ian covers some aspects that definitely should have been addressed, like expenses being too high, which had a compounding effect. He had assumed that the minimum attendees they should be expecting this year would be the amount from last year, so he bought an arena twice the size. Buying this would mean that he would need to spend double on broadcasting, which would then require double the amount of staff, and double the salaries needed to be paid. As it turned out, bigger was not always better, with the event pulling in half the amount of spectators as the previous year. Scott Sullivan, an experienced MMA coach, would also point out that paying fighters $20K or $2,000 a month for training made it seem like they got overpaid. Most of them looked like they did no training. This has bothered me for a while. Most of them either got duped or they were pocketing training funds.
We also had events the day before the fight and the day after the fight, so that, you know, fighters and friends and family could come together and process their trauma. That was sort of paramount for me, because the first year we did the fight and then I went to bed. I got the shit kicked out of me by Dr. Mike, and then I went to bed, and then I woke up, the hotel was empty, and then I got on a flight and traveled 5 hours with my face completely swollen back to Seattle, and I was like, that was cool, that was so worth it. There was nothing, there was no processing my trauma, there was no talking to anyone and relating about the experience afterward. Everyone was gone.
Fans would question the validity of this and wondered why he needed to extend the event an entire 2 days to do something he could do for free on his own time. Speculation ensued that the real reason for these events were because he was trying to make up for all the burnt bridges from last year by spending extra time with the fighters. Regardless, this would compound with the fact that they were already renting out an arena twice as big, tripling the already exorbitant fees that they had to pay for an arena of this size. These components would significantly contribute to Creator Clash's failure, but weren't even the core fundamental issues that many noticed. The heart of the problem was mainly 2 things: advertising, or lack of, and the creators on the card. As much as it was nice to see old familiar faces like Harley and Froggy, the reality is that the average YouTube viewer didn't know who the majority of the people on the card were. In fact, most of the videos on their channels had barely broken 100,000 views in years, if not ever, with the most extreme examples being Dad, Hundar, and Haley Sharp, who of course, I'm sure you all know for her world-renowned video of her dancing to Smooth Criminal by Michael Jackson. Creators like Myth had been largely popular popular 4 years ago with the Fortnite boom that had occurred, but today his viewer base has largely dropped off. Froggy, Egoraptor, and Harley, while still being cherished and respected creators, are also products of a bygone generation and largely weren't relevant at the time of Creator Clash 2. There were also fighters on the card that people mostly knew because they were associated with a bigger name that they worked for. People like Starkilla, who works for the H3 podcast, and Abelina Sabrina, who used to be in a relationship with Gus Johnson and occasionally appeared in his videos. It seemed odd to people that instead of getting big name creators, they instead got what felt like sloppy seconds or their personal friends. The biggest issue with Creator Clash, in my opinion, is that I don't know who these people are. Like, aside from Ian and Aaron, I'm looking at 20 others I haven't heard of and aren't interested in watching. I literally waited for the clips of the 2 people I know to be uploaded after both Creator Clashes were already done for free. Obviously, there were creators on the card that are still massive. It's why the 2 most popular are fighting each other. But this is an exception and not the rule. In this case, Creator Clash was mostly getting advertising from creators that don't have a big fan base. So their advertising budget was greatly harmed by the fact that, well, who wants to see these people fight? Nobody knows who they are. People that also just felt like they had barely been marketed to in the first place, especially compared to last year, with some even buying tickets and then forgetting the event was happening, then finding out they missed out after it was too late. Ian, I don't know if this is the feedback you want, but I literally did not know that CC2 had already happened. Your frequent uploads to this channel in the months and weeks up until CC1 was how I knew about it. I legit thought this video was supposed to be a precursor to an upcoming event when I saw the title. Ian would respond saying, "Yikes, okay, that's good to know. Thank you." Overall, the unfortunate fact of the matter is that most fighters on the card just weren't famous enough or relevant anymore, which led to half as many people being interested in going. Compounding with the fact that the novelty has worn off because it's already happened, and they literally doubled the amount of money spent in places they didn't need to be, and the far less emphasis on marketing, this would all result in the financial disaster that was Creator Clash 2. And as a result, a number of videos have been released calling out the poor use of their money.
Pay-per-view cost $25 or $35 if you bought it day of. At a reported 50,000 buys, that's $1.25 million in income. Then there was in-person tickets. Let's say it sold 35% capacity. At an average of about $40 a ticket, that would be a $294,000 gate. We're at $1.5 million so far. Then there were sponsorships. So somehow, they spent a minimum of $1.85 million to lose $250,000.
To be honest, the Froggy Fresh drama was the moment when Creator Clash 2 was most talked about, probably because a lot of that energy was then sucked into Sam Hyde's reality TV show, Fish Tank. After Fish Tank began, Sam went largely quiet about iDubbbz, and even recently stated that he was done trolling him.
Well, I gotta say, I think we're done with the iDubbbz.
Yeah.
It's
F iDubbbz. Yeah, forget about iDubbbz.
We didn't put Airsoft Fatty on there to own iDubbbz. We put him because his friend reached out to us and gave us the opportunity.
It's fair to say that after the dust had settled, Sam had his fun and was ready to move on to bigger projects that he was passionate about, basically leaving iDubbbz to pick up the pieces of his dying fan base. At the end of the video, iDubbbz mentions that someone is trying to take over Creator Clash, and he doesn't really elaborate further. The assumption is that since the event lost so much money, someone is trying to buy them out or take over the organization, but details are not known. Fans also pointed out that while Anissa had been credited with running everything, she had not been in the apology video and instead stayed behind the camera, feeding into the continued narrative that she's the one responsible for Ian's downward career trajectory.
You ask any of our fighters and it's like, yeah, Anissa was the one who like solves problems. She is more communicative than me, and she's better at communicating than I am. I fucking suck at this shit. So Anissa is the one. She is the one to talk to.
Regardless, the fate of Creator Clash is looking extremely bad, and it may never happen again. Not just because of the massive amount of money it lost, but also because of the amount of viewers Ian has lost over time. A few weeks before he would reveal Creator Clash wasn't profitable, he would upload a video called I Miss the Old iDubbbz, hammering the last nail in the coffin for anyone who thought there was a glimmer of hope of going back to the old days. He goes on to apologize for his content cops, apologizing to the narcissists, egomaniacs, and bullies that he had every right to criticize, now labeling what he did as harassment. The rhetoric that his content change was purely a grift sort of fell apart after this video, as he got very emotional and seemed to be completely genuine. In his eyes, he had made a career off of hatred and bigotry, going on to say that it was because of his insecurities and moral grandstanding in his old videos. He seems to be genuinely apologetic and completely ashamed of his older content. To longtime fans, however, it felt like he was a completely different person, going from being self-assertive, confident, witty, and funny to being timid, insecure, and regretful without an ounce of of comedy left. This wasn't just the prevailing sentiment of people who hated him too. Fans that genuinely like him and support his change throughout all of this can't help but observe the fact that his content has really dropped off in quality. I've been subscribed since 2015 and unsubscribed yesterday. This has nothing to do with Hyde or Anissa. I never really cared about the controversies, only the content. My reason for unsubscribing is poor quality content. I understand he may be going through a transition with his comedy, but it feels like his last 10 videos have been devoid of any personality. He always comes across sedated, with unfunny commentary and video ideas that just seem random. No hate towards Ian, as he doesn't owe anyone content, just feels like he no longer enjoys making videos. Even Tana Mojo, the girl whose convention he went to and said the N-word, was shocked.
I'm more so just talking about like his actions to me. You know, him showing up to my show, him putting me on blast, him inevitably making me kind of canceled and lose subscribers and have to apologize and all that type of stuff. I kind of think I like deserved that. And maybe that's like dark, like to say, but like I don't feel like I'm owed an apology.
It feels like these days, Ian can't stop taking L's. With Leafy is here, constantly laughing at him on Twitter, Anissa mentioning on stream that he soils himself, and the very noticeable content quality dip for the last few years. Between him content copying himself, losing back-to-back fights, non-stop bleeding subscribers, getting irreversibly owned by Sam Hyde, losing $250,000, his wife being a machine gun of humiliation, and him financially pump-faking charities for things like mental illness and child cancer, I truly feel bad for iDubbbz. It's sad to watch him do this to himself to fit into this new delusional crowd of white knights. Change isn't always good. Whether you agree or not that Ian has changed for the worst, it's undeniable that the Creator Clash 2 failed, and that's a bad thing for everyone, fan or not. Charities not getting money that they were promised is not a good thing. Ian would go on to have a charity stream of his own and raise over $150,000, mending the wound for some who were angry about Creator Clash's failure. With Leafy recently accepting Ian's boxing challenge, the future for Creator Clash isn't as grim as people think. If it does eventually happen, hopefully Ian and Anissa have learned from their mistakes this year and can put on an event that shares the success of the original. Or maybe whoever's trying to take it over will do a much better job than they ever could. I've been Turkey Tom, thanks for watching, and until next time, leave me alone.